Testing, testing. Hi, this is Stefano from VOX Podcast, and we're starting today with a very interesting startup session with Nina from Super, and with Diane that is co-hosting with me. First of all, Nina, let's give an introduction. Let us know about the project that you're working at, and if I pronounce it correctly, of course, and what is the story behind the name. The way I understand it is like super, though it's spelled differently, right?
Right. We actually pronounce it as XOPA. It's XOPA is, as you know, X and 0 stand for numbers, and PA stands for predictive analytics. So that's how we got the name. And XOPA in Panama and in many countries means what's up, people. So we thought that was pretty cool. Let's go with that. So and I wanted a 4-letter word just to make it easier to remember and better recollection.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Let's find out more about the project. Diane, feel free to jump in at any point in time.
Sure, yeah. No, sorry, just wanted to hear about the background on XOPA, why you started it and how it was formed a couple of years ago.
Sure. So XOPA was, this is my second startup, and I started this in 2017. So we are in our third year of startup right now. That very critical year for startups. So my background is I am an electronics engineer, so a fair bit of geekiness in me. And my previous company I started up in '97 with $1,000 investment. It was an HR consulting and executive search, and ultimately it grew to a 5-continent business, spanning across all the big markets. 3 years back, I just felt with the advent of data science and artificial intelligence, it would be absolutely fantastic if we could pivot our very traditional business to something which is scientific, something which brings in objectivity, and so the whole idea was, how do we take all the pain factors that we saw during those 20 years of our business, whether it is for employers or job seekers or universities, students, how do we use technology and data science to overcome those hurdles, to make it first of all, an objective process, so that it is free from any biases and human errors, and secondly, how do we scale it? So the whole idea was, let's get objectivity and let's scale it. So that's how XOPA was formed.
So essentially, you were trying to disrupt whatever you were doing, your own business.
Exactly. You got it, Diane. So, it was a big gamble. Obviously, I was cannibalizing my own business, but I thought if I can disrupt my own business, then the idea is going to work.
That's brilliant. That's what an entrepreneur is. The next question, I guess, can you tell us a bit about your tech? What solutions you offer and the competitive advantage?
Sure. So our platform has 2 parts. So if I was to just divide it into 2 parts, the first part is the intelligence part of it, and the second is the workflow. So the intelligence part is the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, all the data science and the analytics and algorithms which fuel the platform. All of that intelligence is fantastic, but if you don't have a platform which can even give you efficiencies of scale, then it's of no use. So we also built a very, very smart platform which has smart workflows, such as smart interviewing, video interviewing embedded into it. Not just video interviewing, there are analytics which run on the video interviews to give you further analysis around sentiment, emotion, the words being used, and so on. Integration with smart tools like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and smart emailing, smart scheduling, smart. So kind of take the intelligence, which is primarily running on artificial intelligence, which mimics the human intelligence to a certain part. It doesn't overtake that, because at the end of the day, you want to augment it correctly so that you take away the inefficiencies and take away the biases, but you still keep the real decisions with the humans, so that you get the entire process right.
I would like to ask a question, Nina. You say that this is the third year, and you say it's the critical year. So if you can give us an overview on the fundraising, what stage are you at in terms of both fundraising and traction, and why do you say the third year is critical?
Sure. So the first year was when the idea, so I started off with this germ of an idea wherein it was just about, having a concept. And then I met with my co-founder. We said, okay, yes, this concept can be turned into a scientific process. So the first year was all around building algorithms, the data science part of it. Second part was we've built some models. How do we test it? So 2018, which was our second year of operation, was all about testing it with live clients. We tested it with almost close to 100 clients from different parts of the world and different industries. So there were large companies, there were small companies, universities, government organizations who tested that, and which is what we took to kind of further enhance the accuracy of the platform. 2019 was when we went commercial. So that was the first year of commercialization. And that's when you want to know that our company is going to pay for it. You build this great piece that you think is fabulous, and it's the best thing on the planet, but are people ready to pay for it? And that was a 2019 critical year. So we closed 2019 at a revenue of $535,000, which was pretty mind-blowing for us, being the first year of real commercialization. So clearly, we've gone through the startup phase. We are now in the scale-up phase, and that phase is very critical for a startup, because the idea has been formed, the platform is ready, the commercialization has been tested. Now it's all about getting that scale and that exponential growth. And to your second question, Stefano, you asked me about the funding. So the company has been bootstrapped by me. I've invested close to 1.5 million in the company. We raised a seed round in January of 2019, so which was last year. That was for $500,000. And we also won another $500,000 from the Singapore government in one of the equity-free grants. We are now using the next couple of months to do our next round of funding. We are hoping to raise $1.5 million US. And, I've spoken to a few investors, and different people call it different things. So call it pre-Series A, call it Series A, really depends on who you're talking to, but that's what we're trying to raise.
So at the moment, what type of investor are you looking for? Is generally a VC or a strategic partner, or how would you describe the ideal scenario for the next 2 months, especially considering the fact that we are in a kind of a state of emergency, and so we're talking about June, okay, second half of the year. How would you envision X0PA being operational the second half of the year?
Yeah, our preference is to talk to VCs. So we definitely want an institutional investor right now. We do have our angel investors who came in last year. So we do want to pivot to VCs and corporate VCs. So we are in talks with a few, but we've just started the process. And you are right, we are in a very strange time at the moment. But interestingly, we've been very, very busy, extremely busy. Well, one, because people are working from home, so contacting the decision makers is possible. We don't get out of office responses or appointments three weeks down the line. People are ready to talk, and so we are busy. We are really busy. Our calendars are really busy. I hope that busyness converts into decisions as well. But considering that it's a digital platform, it's cloud-based. If anything, this is what people need at this moment, especially if you're talking about universities, for example. Universities have their students graduating irrespective of COVID or no COVID, right? So the students are coming out. Companies do need to get their campus hiring done. With the social distancing, how do you go about that? So you do need platforms like us to undertake those entire process. So yeah, but I stay positive.
So just want to add to that, yeah. But one of the questions we actually had for you, or one of the things we wanted to ask you is about how Corona is affecting your business. But it seems like businesses that are still operating would still need to hire people, and therefore hiring it with a remote platform is more efficient. And also people who need jobs. I mean, a lot of people need jobs at this time, and so it basically makes you more relevant. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Diane. So I mean, I wouldn't say that every single target industry is going to jump at our solution at the moment. I don't think enterprises are. This is not the first thing that they're going to do. They're not. I don't assume that the first thing that they will do after COVID is to hire, but they still need to hire the students because that's cyclical and that's a seasonal thing. And if they miss the season, then they've missed it for the year, and their competitors are going to go ahead and grab the best students from the universities. So that part of the business cannot change. Universities still need to make sure that they get their students internships and campus, get their jobs done. So I mean, the two sectors that are really busy for us at the moment are definitely the institutes, the universities and colleges, but the other one is government. Government is looking beyond this crisis. They know that this is going to end at some point of time. You cannot stop and work sequentially. You need to carry on. So for them, if anything, they have accelerated the process. So it's very, very interesting times.
Interesting. Okay, so let's shift back to the tech a little bit more, because I know you recently won the IDC Innovator Award and an Innovative Talent Award from Microsoft as well. So I wanted to hear more about using AI and what is your hit rate like, meaning the ability to return data that's accurate. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. The IDC one was a real surprise. We ourselves didn't know. We read it in a post on Twitter, which was tweeted by IMDA. So we were like super excited. The technology. Look, like any AI. First of all, AI, what is AI? AI is all about how good the quality of data is, and if your results are not going to be as good if the quality of data is noisy or if you're just working on synthetic data. So you really need real life data, and you need it to be big enough, and that's what the big data is all about, so that you are not you're not inserting biases, and that's only going to propagate, so as perpetuate as we go forward. So the initial data that we used to form our first set of models was based around the 20 years of data that we collected in my previous startup. So of course in 20 years it wasn't a startup anymore, but in the 20 years of data, which was very, very high quality real life data with feedback and with decisions and with outcomes, because you need to have the entire time series to be able to identify. Secondly, it needs to be across the globe so that it's not just one particular region. So it can't just be Singapore or India or London. It's only going to...
I want to interrupt you. This is a very great point here that because I was wondering, how do you get something up and running in just like 2 or 3 years, and how can it be, quality wise, how can it be so great? But that makes sense that actually your life was basically set out to head this direction.
Yes, you're totally right. I think it was our calling, and so I think that was mind blowing. So having that was, you're totally right. That was the biggest milestone. I don't think it would be as and we wouldn't have got the accuracy so quickly had we not used real life. Now, imagine all that data with 20 years of experience, the domain experience, having spoken to hundreds and thousands of companies, job seekers, perhaps millions of job seekers over 20 years, and universities, students. So think about all of that information that we collected. And we said that we are going to see how many there are so many pain factors in a hiring process, whether it is universities or companies or government. Let's see how technology can overcome those problems. So, I'll give you a very small example, just to kind of elaborate on what I mean is, companies want to hire the best person for a job or a best student for the job. But how do we know what is the best for that person? So, jobs, if you look at it from the job seeker's point of view, their pain factor is that I send a resume to perhaps hundreds of different places. Half of them go into a black hole. I have no idea what's happened to my CV. I don't get called from most of them. Even if I get an email back, it's probably an auto email that comes back to me. So I have no clue where, where I stand in the process. And so this is a genuine pain, and especially when it comes to students, they've got to do their exams and their dissertation, and they still have to apply for jobs because they're graduating in the next 3 months, and so on. So how do we overcome that? And so in x0pa platform, we've given a lot of importance to this pain factor. There is a complete dashboard for students and job seekers. So you can actually create your digital profile just once. You don't have to send your CV multiple times. You don't have to apply for a job, but you get matched automatically. So you only get matched where you are best fit, where your chances of getting hired are very, very high, and where the likelihood of you staying and really enjoying that work is going to be optimum. So it takes away a lot of uncertainty, and it also keeps them informed of where in the process they are. And this is, of course, helping a lot to the companies as well, because it improves their employer branding. Because suddenly the candidate feels a part of the process. So there are so many such pain factors, Diane. I mean, I can go on and on, but we've tried to take all of those pain factors and put it in the platform.
Nina, help me to understand the process exactly, because you are mentioning so many stakeholders. You talked about government, you talked about students, you talked about job seekers. We are obviously talking about corporates. You mentioned enterprise as well. When you developed the project, who you had in mind to start with? It's so funny because I see we are probably 20 kilometers away. I see the thunderbolt and then I hear the sound on your side.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Which stakeholder you had in mind as you developed the platform in 2017 when you started, or it's a process that took you through a journey, and every time you find a roadblock, you just find a solution to encompass a different stakeholder?
Yeah. Okay, when we started, and this is a really good question because it's very interesting. When we started, my intention was more around building a product which would help companies. So it was meant to be for the big enterprises. So my target was, okay, we are targeting the big enterprise because those are the ones where the volumes are highest. And secondly, the product was meant to be a predictive analytics platform which would predict the attrition in a company. So when we started, the idea of recruitment came much later. What we were trying to build was an enterprise product, which was, for example, there is a company, we would run we would incorporate the algorithms, and it can tell you in your 10,000 or 20,000 employees who are the likely flight risk over the next 6 to 12 months. And so that the companies are pre-warned, and then they can start working on those key, so that it was all about retention at that time. And from there, we pivoted to building our recruitment platform. And it's interesting, Stefano, you say this, because the traction has been more with the universities and government. And government was a sector that I had not even thought about when I set out to building the product.
Can I ask a follow up on what you just said? When you were talking about how when you first started Zopa, it was about retention, and then you pivoted. I think I read an article on that as well, that you were saying that companies weren't ready for that. What kind of reactions did you get when you were exploring that route?
Yeah. So, oh my God, it seems like a different generation at that time. But it was only 3 years back that when we had to explain what AI is, what is artificial intelligence. There was so much of skepticism around AI. Some people almost gave us a feeling that it's some kind of a hocus pocus, And from there to this date, which is barely 2.5, 3 years, it is a different world altogether. The acceptance of AI, acceptance of technology, and the benefits of that it's a totally different ball game. So we don't even have to explain to anybody about AI anymore.
I think it's also perhaps a misconception on AI. Someone took a free ride on the buzzword artificial intelligence without actually developing or delivering artificial intelligence, which probably you face a different type of challenge now, which is explaining, and probably I'm one of those skeptics as well, that kind of push for a denomination rather of algorithm machine learning, if that's the correct terminology, rather than AI. I saw a very interesting joke, a slide that says, if it's developed in Microsoft PowerPoint, is artificial intelligence. If it's developed in Python, is algorithm machine learning. I guess you went from explaining what is artificial intelligence to kind of explaining the difference between the, pass me the word, BS AI versus the true AI. Is it?
I think the first year was AI in itself. What is this AI? People didn't even understand what artificial intelligence is. And the first reaction was that you are going to disrupt my work. You're going to make me insecure in my own organization. And I think from that point, then came the massive amount of funding that was injected in the AI industry, so-called AI industry, which kind of also now the problem was, who is true AI and who is BS AI, right? Like you rightly said. And so there was a lot of that noise in the market. Having said that, I think already you will see that the market has matured enough to identify who's there to stay and who's really doing the right, who's using ethical AI, what are the outcomes. People are demanding, okay, tell us what is the impact you're making. And they're talking about hardcore results on, give us real tangible numbers on the impact that you're making, rather than just that, okay, great, you're going to improve my efficiencies and my decision making. But now people say, tell me what percentage, how much money am I going to save? How much time am I going to save? How do you know your accuracy is 93% that you claim? So people ask very intelligent questions. So you need to be prepared today, in today's world, to be able to stand up to that and have measurements that speak for itself, some tangible and not the fluffy answers.
Thanks, Nina. Okay, so just to sort of summarize your client base, when Stefano mentioned, you were all over the map in terms of businesses, government, and universities. Yes. I guess, so my question is, what does your client base look like in terms of businesses? What kind of industries, what kind of size? Maybe a little bit more about the universities, and I guess talent pool would be I know, why don't you answer that question? Talent pool across the board in terms of like university students and experienced people.
Sure. So, I mean, in terms of the distribution of our own clients, I would say 50% of our business comes from government, and I'll tell you in a minute what the use cases in the government are. So, for the government, for example, E2I, which is part of NTUC. E2I is like the equivalent of job centers in the UK or job centers in the US, where the citizens or the PRs are able to come forward to find jobs within Singapore. So E2I is using a platform to match these candidates to the employers, and then they want to scale this across the country. Other use cases of government are, for example, inviting multiple companies like WSG, Workforce Singapore, WSG, or where they bring in multiple companies to sign up, push their jobs, and then our AI matches it with the pool of candidates that are available for work. The second largest business for us, in fact, is universities. And it is my absolute favorite. One, because I have a son who's 22, and I see all the pain factors that he's going through right now to find a job. And with the universities, we have use cases of campus hiring, of course, which is the most evident one. So campus hiring, and it's a very cool platform because what the university, they can go live in half an hour. It's a plug and play. All they have to do is then invite the companies that they're working with. Companies get each one of them gets their own login passwords. They push the jobs that they have at the moment that they want to fill with either with interns or grads. And on the other hand, the university students are invited by the university to onboard their digital profile, and that's it. And everything then gets done by AI. So the students will know what are the top 3-5 jobs that they are best suited for, both in terms of capability of doing the job, but also compatibility, which is really important. Compatibility to the job, compatibility to the company. So for universities, campus hiring, internship allocation. We've just got a request from one of the universities if these algorithms can be scaled to do scholarship matching. I mean, I guess it is an interesting use case which we are exploring right now. And some are also exploring admissions that can be make it an objective process instead of just making it based on GPA and IB scores. Can we go beyond that and see a student's capability? So things are really changing very rapidly now because there are use cases that perhaps even we didn't envisage, which are coming out. And so it's a very, very unique and interesting time.
Interesting. Okay, so now if we can move towards talk more about your company. What's the current size of the team and the structure?
We are now 22 across the globe. We've also got some interns in this, so I would say probably 4 or 5 interns, and the rest are all full time. We are spread over 3 regions. So we have Singapore as our headquarters. We have a data science, sales, and corporate team based in Singapore. We have our engineering team, and our CTO is based out of Hyderabad in India. And we have a country manager in the UK based out of London.
Okay. Why? So I can understand Singapore because you are there, India because of the tech, and then why the UK?
Well, number one, I am from the UK before I moved to Singapore. So I understand that market really well. Secondly, the density of the clients from my previous business was quite heavily populated in the UK. So, there's a familiarity with the market. We were still very hesitant to see whether we should venture out in the UK. However, Enterprise Singapore has been very kind to give us that bit of a boost, and they've given us a special grant to go and explore business in the UK. So that gave us that little bit more kind of a soft landing in terms in terms of the grant. So
a question about compliance with regards to privacy, GDPR. Stepping into UK, technically speaking, is not Europe anymore, but I met your team the first time at the HR Tech in India, in Delhi last year. And my first question was about how do you manage millions of resumes and manage to stick within the GDPR regulation? How does it work?
Yeah. So the very first thing is this is where our partnership with Microsoft is absolutely mind-blowing. We are a very, very close partner of Microsoft. So our product is also based on Azure. What this means really is that being a Microsoft partner itself takes a lot of due diligence from Microsoft to be compliant on every basis. All the key factors of GDPR and PDPA are incorporated in the platform. Secondly, the other big one is about having multiple tenants. The data in Asia cannot move out of Asia and Europe out of Europe and so on. So we use multiple tenants on the Azure platform to make sure that the data for that country stays in that region only. This is Microsoft is very, very, very good at working with us and making sure that data privacy, data security, all of that is all taken care of.
Interesting. Okay. And now to shift the focus a little bit, and we mentioned about Microsoft quite a bit. I just wanted to get your thoughts, your personal thoughts on what your experience was like as part of the Microsoft ScaleUp program. You recently graduated from that program, yeah?
We did, yes. Oh, yes.
I followed you. Congratulations.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So we had two partnerships with Microsoft. One is Microsoft as a company, where we do co-development with products, integration with Dynamics, Microsoft Teams, and so on. So Microsoft ScaleUp program was based out of London, and that was the other reason why London was such an important office for us. It was mind-blowing because number one, firstly, they gave us space in the Microsoft Reactor. Now, I don't know if you've read in the press, Microsoft Reactor is beautiful. It is in a beautiful part of London. It's a fantastic office. It's got great boardrooms, fantastic meeting rooms, and they give you free breakfast. Okay, so my team was super excited about that in London. So especially the interns, we had quite a few interns in London, so they loved it. Secondly, what happens is
there?
Sorry
to interrupt. Just wondering, what was the whole team there, or how many members of the team were allowed to go, I guess?
Well, they were happy to have as many as we wanted, but we had 4 of us. So we had our sales director, she was based there, and then she had a team of interns with her. And so the program is amazing because firstly, we were selected, God knows, out of some 150, 160 startups. It's a pretty, it's a very competitive program, and you get so much help from them in terms of not just being in the ecosystem. So being there, of course, is a lot of idea sharing, but they also make you participate in events. They're constantly hosting events with industry leaders or corporates or universities and so on. And then participating in events together. For example, Slush in Finland, we had a booth in the Microsoft Pavilion, thanks to them. And just a lot of technology help. There is a CTO in residence at the reactor who works with you on the technology things. So if there's a technology hiccup, he'll work with you to help you work through that and so on. So it was a fantastic scale-up program. So lots of introductions to VCs, and we were not fundraising at that time. So it was more a social thing with VCs, but definitely with the corporates. It was quite meaningful.
How long was the program, by the way?
So that was a 9-month long program, And it's actually usually a one-year program. We graduated earlier because the moment you reach a certain checklist, for example, that you are on the marketplace of Microsoft, you've been identified to be on the app source, as they call it, of Microsoft. So when you meet all of that, then they say, okay, you don't need us anymore, get out.
Nina, I wanted to ask you about your competitors. Who would you highlight as competitors? What are your advantages and what are your disadvantages also compared to your competitors?
Sure. It's a market. AI is so new. So all the competitors obviously have just about started in the last few years. So anybody, I would say it's not, if you do just the Apple for Apple or, so AI for AI kind of competitors, there are companies like this. There's a company called Eightfold AI, which is based in California, which I see is doing something around the area that we are doing. Then there is another one that I read about called Restless Bandit in the UK. And, but, if you were to look at what the platform is aiming to do, in a lot of sense, it would also mean a lot of other recruitment platforms, like including LinkedIn would be a competitor, right? So, and when a company is making a choice, they are choosing that should I invest more in LinkedIn or should I kind of buy this platform? So, yeah. So I would say Eightfold, I would say Restless Bandit, and there are few in Singapore as well. There is Pulsify, but I don't think they are doing exactly what we are doing. So
would you say then your competitive advantage is the AI?
Yes, and of course, the competitive advantage definitely is the AI. It is the patents that we have filed, and so we've got patents both for the enterprise platform as well as for the university platform. I think the candidate dashboard that I was talking about and the way the candidate side is probably, we are probably the only platform. I don't think there's anybody else who does that in our competitors. So that's quite unique, embedding the whole candidate part into the process. Yeah.
Where did you file for your patent?
Singapore. But they are all global patents, so it, under the PCT.
Clear. I think, Diane,
go ahead.
Yeah, we are 45 minutes in, and we have to respect also Nina's time. So let's start with the last few questions, and we maximize our exposure with her.
Okay. Well, I just have one last question. What is it like being a female leader in the SaaS space?
Oh gosh. You don't realize that you are a female leader, first of all, because, I think I didn't realize it till I started to do fundraising, so it is interesting. You do get a lot of kudos for it, but the challenge still remains on, because I haven't seen it. So again, I might be talking on very small data, so I don't have the big data on this, but I think it's an interesting space to be in. There are not too many female entrepreneurs, especially in a high tech, deep tech industry. So, when I meet another one, I'm almost like, whoa, hi, good to meet you, So, and I get really excited when I see my other female entrepreneurs in deep tech and, in the STEM women and so on. So, it's great. But I think that's changing with the next generation. It's probably my generation, but I think, when I look at the youngsters, I think that's changing. And I think it's going to be very different for the next generation.
I also have one last question, which is regards to where you see x0pa over the next 1 year, assuming that the fundraising is successful over the next couple of months. Where you want to be in 1 year from now?
Yes, I mean, whether we get the fundraising or we don't, we have a plan A and a plan B. So I'm not, my plans don't dramatically change. Yes, we will get more scale. We will definitely get more outreach. We will get to that number faster. But we've made our 5-year plan. This year, by the end of 2020, we are hoping to be a 3 million company. 3 million ARR, annual recurring revenue. And by 2023, our plan says that we will be 100 million, and I'm pretty confident we will be, because we have a pretty solid plan on how we're going to grow. This year is all about focusing in these 3 markets: Asia, Asia Pacific, and the UK. And we have just launched our reseller program, which is mind-blowing, and we've got some fantastic partners in all parts of the world, including Latin America and Mexico and Saudi Arabia and Dubai. And through the partners, we are also we are expecting to scale pretty rapidly. So yeah, 100 million by 2023 is what I'm looking forward to.
As you know, Diane is based in Kenya, although she's a Malaysian citizen. So is East Africa in your geography, or any countries in Africa?
Every country, and especially Africa, every country is on our growth map. Diane, let me know who's interested in being a reseller there. Especially, I think Africa is a fabulous market for a platform like ours, isn't it? I mean, so. Yeah, I mean, every single market is on our radar.
And so what is the current valuation of the company?
So we are raising $1.5 million at $13 million US valuation.
Cool, thank you for sharing that. Any other question, Diane?
Nope, I'm good. But we should talk after Nina about expansion to Africa.
Let's do that. I'll be delighted to do that. Absolutely.
Nina, thank you again for your time. If you want to leave one last message to our listener, the last minute is all for you, and let us thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this discussion. Some really good questions out there. And I just want to say that, our main aim with x0pa is about maximizing objectivity and, making sure that decisions are made fair and equal, not just for the benefit of the job seekers, but also I think the employers and employers gain a lot by that as well. So that, we hope to make a difference. And thank you so much for your time, Diane and Stefano.
Thank you too.
Nina, thank you. This is definitely deep tech, and you are the best person to do what you're doing right now.
Thank you. I'll take that compliment. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.